costing us lives, it's costing us money that we don't have enough of, and it's costing the nation resources. Secondly, you got to devote, if you're serious about it, then you got to put the right leadership, management, as well as dollar resources to make sure that you can do that. You can talk about a plan, you can publish a plan, but if you don't put your shoulder behind it, it isn't going anywhere. Third, there needs to be an integrated approach. And you've got to be able to make sure that the installations and the operational commanders and the guys at the headquarters that are trying to get the money are actually working not against each other, but in concert with each other, because usually it's pretty hard to get the resources necessary. You need to be able to demonstrate leadership by pursuing things that are good for the Marine Corps. It's great that they're good for the nation, but don't go do some demonstration project because it looks good to other people when the business case tells you you need to be focusing here. And in fact, we have done this. You've got to go out and buy efficient equipment. It's got to meet the military purpose, okay? So 100% ethanol instead of jet fuel in helicopters isn't going to do it because it doesn't produce enough energy. But on the other hand, make sure you're using your trucks, your combat vehicles, and your aircraft smartly. No leaving the engines idling at the curb at Camp Pendleton. It may be a good idea to leave them idling at the curb if you're in Condor, since you may want to jump in the vehicle and get out of there real quick. Electrification of our non-tactical vehicle fleet. And then to be able to phase out things like the old incandescent bulbs, which, by the way, you know what the greatest product of an incandescent light bulb is? Heat. It isn't light, it's heat. So you turn on that light, it's really good, and I like it a lot, but guess what? It's affecting your air conditioning too. Okay? Now, it is true that incandescent light, even though they tell you that it's a 60-watt bulb, usually doesn't look like that, but either you get a slightly higher wattage incandescent bulb. I guarantee you that once they warm up, and your kids are going to get used to it in a heartbeat, but watch that electric bill like that. So then, okay, maybe your electric bill went down, you get used to a slightly different kind of softer light, and now you can go out and buy nice sneakers for the kids. So those people that are at the lower end of the economic spectrum, they got to make those kind of choices. The large scale, and this is where the civilian community is involved, we have to continue to evaluate large scale agreements with the public sector, utility companies, and the communities. Because as they take a look at needing to generate more power, generating power more efficiently and smartly, and yes, generating cleaner power, there has to be a cooperative effort between marketplace devices. So whether it's public-private ventures or long-term contract agreements, and it's not just Paris Island that will do this, but it's the counties, it's the municipalities, and working with the federal government. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. In many cases, we're talking about billions of dollars worth of investment to change transmission lines, to change power plants, and to change the way people use the energy. We don't need to build power plants in this country simply because we're wasting the energy. We need to get efficient in the energy and build power plants because the energy demand is growing. And then lastly, you basically have to train and educate your people. And it starts in, I actually think the kids in kindergarten are getting it. They're understanding it. They don't know what to do with it yet. But from the management level on down to the people that are actually doing the four-letter word of work, they know it's important. They just don't know that they're the important part of it. Because most of the energy use, the energy discipline, is happening at the level of flipping off and on the switches, turning off and on the car, making a decision about whether you actually hold the hose and water the lawn or you just let it go for a couple hours. And by the way, all these little things, it's like raindrops that end up being a tidal wave, right? I'll just give you a couple of examples and then we can move on into some questions. And I talked about this earlier with a couple of folks. Most Americans do not realize that all those little winky lights that you have in your house, like when that tells you that the refrigerator is working, or the LED lights on in your microwave, or if you got a computer, you can put it in sleep mode, right? But it's still got a little fingers when you push it, it comes on. Well, you probably lose about 3 or 4% of your energy for all the appliances that aren't on and all the switches that aren't on. But as soon as you touch them, they are, because it's hot. Now, that's not true of every single outlet in your house. I mean, if you plug in your iron and you turn it on the off switch, it's not using anything. But for all those appliances that are either in a sleep mode or like your refrigerators, they're actually using some energy even though you're not opening the door, you're losing energy. It's not even doing the work simply by keeping it hot. In other words, keeping the switch By the way, that's before you even got to your house or your factory. You probably lost 9% of it anyway. The transmission lines in the country. Between the power generation facilities, I don't care whether they're nuclear, coal, natural gas, solar, by the time it gets to where you pull it out of the wall, you probably lost 9%. And we can fix that in the country if we modernize the grid. And I'm not talking about some kind of super Star Wars technology. I just mean we need to modernize the grid. And maybe cut a 9% power loss to a 4 or 5% power loss. Because guess what? You're only using what you're using, right? Well or poorly, you're only using it by the kilowatt hour. But you're paying for everything that was lost. And you guarantee they take those rates and run it to the state commission, and they show that we generated so many megawatts, and they used so many megawatts, and the ones that are actually doing the consuming are paying for everything that was generated. Okay. Now that's not because the utility companies are stupid or bad, but it takes a whole nation to rethink how we're literally wasting, I'm saying, 10% or more of our power that you're not even getting work out. You're just losing it. It's like that underground water in Maryland. We had a roadmap and we finished the study, and I'll finish on it. We came up with about 5 findings and then a bunch of recommendations. So rather than go through the findings, let me tell you what the recommendations were for the military, but it really is for the citizens. Energy security and climate change they cross over. I mean, one doesn't necessarily affect the other, but the complexity of climate change, our dependence on energy in very remote, turbulent places of the world causes this kind of effect. Secondly, we need to, in the Department of Defense and in the federal government, make sure that our national security processes that give us security strategy, defense strategy, military strategy, they're integrated with our military plans. Not so much that we go off someplace and save an oil field, but so that we are using our energy smartly here and in Afghanistan, so that the burden on the troops is as light in terms of dollars, and in terms of logistics, and in terms of lives as possible. And next to last, the DOD's really got to understand its energy use to be able to do that. I mean, we talk about it, we can, like I said, write reports about it, but unless we transform the way we do installations, and we're doing that, I just mentioned how the 33% improvement over the last 20 some odd years here, but the same thing happened in our communities, so that it will lower us wasting our money and our energy, and therefore allow us, as we get more efficient and develop more sources of energy, to reduce the demand on foreign fossil fuels. They're not going to go away. We're going to have fossil fuels on the planet for a couple hundred years, which is at least 2 or 3 years longer than I plan on being on the planet. But if we don't use it smart, it's going to cost us more, and it's going to have more environmental damage in the process. And by the way, we now use more than 70% of our liquid carbon is coming from outside the United States. Now, it's not coming all from Saudi Arabia. A lot of it's coming from Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. But as you've seen those people picking ads, that's hundreds of billions of dollars that you're giving to somebody else. And my answer is, let's cut the hundreds of billions of dollars, cut it by a third, cut it by half, cut it by 75%, by being efficient, by developing other resources here closer to home, so you can take that money and put it in healthcare and the kids' shoes and renovating our own facilities. The last part of this is that this requires this is a long haul play. This is not some kind of thing that people have a parade and meeting in church, everybody goes home and feel real good about it. This has got to change the way we live, and it doesn't have to lower our standard of living. But I guarantee you, if we don't change it, we'll lower our standard of living. Just like healthcare costs, there's only so many beans in the jar, and when the price of gas gets up to $4 a gallon, it affects the way people live. Now, the good news is, over the long term, we'll get more fuel-efficient vehicles, okay? But there will be a constant demand for more and more energy in places like China. Even though their population is no longer growing, they're modernizing, okay? As they modernize, their energy demands will go that way. They don't drill a lot of oil in China. And if 70% of our energy needs are foreign sourced, the Chinese will bid for the Nigerian oil, the Venezuelan oil, the Canadian oil. And the last time I checked in a relatively free marketplace, guess who's winning? He who has the cash carries, right? And so this ultimately gets back to how we run the government, because the biggest consumers of fuel, jet fuel in the smart use of energy translates directly into military readiness, the cost of doing business in the military, the cost of defending the nation. And so we both have a role to play here in being smart about the use of energy and water. I think we have got some exemplars here in the community, certainly on the military side, and I'm sure out in the private sector. We certainly need to continue the conversation because this is a long road. It's a good road. It's a road to a better, more efficient life with hopefully more security for all.